is large apha kakhulu apha kule ndawo yethu because abantu bayakuthenga ukutya but ilishwa oku kutya kusuka ngaphandle kwale economy. Next slide. Those are some of the issues that we have highlighted under community services: over dependence on government employment. Upper was saying there's a critical importance and need to support entrepreneurs to create a massive employment opportunities. In other words, how do you assist the entrepreneurs that are trading around to make to process some of the products that are being sold in this particular space? Class telling us okay, be simplistic, that's what loop. Not be simplistic. Kufuneka sithi class telling us not chief whip. Iqanda lezalwa inkukhu. Bangaphi abantu abanenkukhu ezizala amaqanda apha kule ndawo yethu athengiswa kwabaspa abagcwele apha. Inyama yenkukhu ngumleqwa nezinye amahadahada. How many are produced from here that are sold kwezinantsika? Inyama yegusha, inyama yenkomo, njalo all the different types of meat, because daily abantu bangena ku superspa bathenga inyama, bathenga iqanda, bathenga umilimili. Zingaphi ezisuka apha kule ndawo yethu? Then that's how we can support entrepreneurs to say that they must be able to ensure that they produce amazamba and they produce cabbage, they produce all of those. But later on, we'll get to that. The second one is finance. KSD must engage the existing illegal loan businesses, engage FSB for support. What has been identified in this particular space, kukuba kukhona illegal loan sharks as operator kwesi space which need to be formalized ngokuba is licensed, because the problem yalonto kukuba abantu who are using illegal means to loan people money, they end up charging abantu beyond the limits that are required in terms of the law. Ukuba interest imali xa uboleka imali, and in the process it's a rip-off for our people. Hence, it is important that they have licenses in terms of SSB, because once they are regulated, akazuthi umuntu ekuboleke 1,000 at 1,000 izala 400, take it or leave it. Because when they go regulated, 1,000 is 400 within a month, take it or leave it. Then if you've got abantu needs abenza londo le, ithetha ukuthi as a municipality we are not regulating that space. So Mr. Mandla, we must work with FSB to identify the illegal loan sharks and make it a point that we are regulating as a space. Trade. Localize the industry through capacity building and support to increase opportunities for new entrants. I think this talks to ensuring that we diversify the economy, because what has been observed, even if unabantu bathengisa materials, building materials, most yabo ufumanisa ngamaPakistan, our own people are only using a cartage, bane trucks bona kuphela, but the actual products is Tena and many others. Ziproduced ngabantu bokufika, which is a problem. I think I've spoken about mining, agriculture, I've reflected about agriculture, construction. Upper we're talking about contractor development program, which is needed, and a formation of one business chamber. Quick business community, we always make this point that xa kukhona i-business chambers ezininzi, loo nto yenza uba kube khona ixesha elininzi lispendwa kwi-contestation ngezi forum, more than spending time saying how best can we speak in one voice and leverage from the opportunities that are available in our space. But it is not for us, it is for the business people to be engaging one another, not to ensure that they have a united voice. Manufacturing, this is said, Lende manufacturing, because nakuyo, contribution in the sector is very small, and we're saying we need to engage with the ECDC and others to ensure that we assist on the issue of manufacturing. Ndiyawuthanda ke lo mzekelo tatsodolophu we-uniform kule nto manufacturing, because it's something close to my heart to say abantwana bethu sonke bahamba isikolo banxiba i-uniform. Ivelaphi le uniform? Theni singake siwubuze lo mbuzo and be able to say i-uniform mayithengwa. Once you do that, you are creating a manufacturing industry, an industry on its own yokuba kuthengwe uniform locally. But if you don't do that, izawusuka eChina isuke India, njalo njalo. And it is something that we need to engage the school principals and education department around that. We have also talked about nutrition in the Likhotla, that bayatya, and urhulumente imali yokutya uyayikhupha, ivelaphi le mali, iyaphi le mali, kuthengwa phi ngale mali yokukutya. So this is how we can be able to ensure that we create a value chain around these particular issues. Then the next slide talks about unemployment rate and poverty rate. It's said as a slide, lento siyichazayo. Sibonisa ukuba unemployment iyakhula ngelona hlobo. Uba ujonga from 2010 unemployment rate for King Sabata Dalindyebo was 28.5%, but now it is 41.6%. So ikhulile kakhulu. If you look at the issue of poverty, kuthiwa apha kwesi slide, there were 393,000 people in 2020 living under the poverty line, which constitutes 18.35%, which is very, very bad. No, 72.52% in 2010, then 75.56% in 2020. Now, if your unemployment and poverty is growing, what are we going to do as a municipality over the next 3 years and 5 years to change the picture? Next slide. Spatial rationale. Municipality has a spatial development framework, which was adopted in December 2020, which was a reviewed document. We have a land use management scheme. There are issues of land claims that are not yet resolved. There are land parcels around the urban center that remain not being properly utilized. We are engaging with the various government departments, Dr. Dar, Department of Public Works, and so on. There's land invasion that is worrying to the municipality, but we have a functional municipal planning tribunal. So you have opportunities in the sense that you have a functional municipal planning tribunal which can then say, how best can we take advantage of that? Then the next one are specific spaces that the municipality has identified for development, which is the Nduli Nature Reserve, the golf course area, the new Enkulekweni. There are others, but these ones, already there are processes that the council has taken in terms of saying, let us proclaim Nduli Nature Reserve and open that space for development. And then there's another report that the institution is busy with on the golf course and New Enkulekweni. But of course, there are issues of land claims around those particular ones. There is a land audit that is also ongoing, which we believe that land audit will be able to show who owns which space and who owns the buildings, because we have a situation apha kwi-former Transkei apho umhlaba okay ube ngokwamasipala, istructure ibe sesika ECDC. Kwezinye indawo ufumanisa uba umhlaba ngokwa-public works, istructure sesikamasipala. So the land audit will be able to reveal all of those anomalies and be able to then say how best can we going forward attend to those such that we're able to unlock development. Next slide. The next slide talks to the precincts, development precincts. I think we've been talking about this. It just reflects the stage of each development precinct. We are very much focused and very much aggressive when it comes to these particular precincts. These are the precincts that directly talk, and the nodes over and above these precincts, there are nodes that directly talk to the Metro Vision to say that if we can make it a point that to unlock economic development in these precincts, then the wish to have KSD a metro would be better realized. Stages, I will not be going in detail on each specific one, but there are planning processes that we are undergoing. National Treasury has said, ufuna omasipala babe ready for development. And in order to be ready, you must have a local special development framework, you must have a detailed precinct plan. Once you have a detailed precinct plan, National Treasury is able to give you money for development. Hence, you would find that we are talking to National Treasury around the neighborhood development partnership grant, which we think that can solve some of the areas. Next slide. Basic service delivery and infrastructure development. Again, this particular slide talks about the engagements that we are making within the DDM model with a number of government entities, DPSA, ESCOM, there's what also we call BFI, and also National Treasury. All of this has engaged because for development to occur, we must be able to have a bulk infrastructure. So we're engaging these various institutions to assist within the bulk infrastructure. OR Tambo is also critical when it comes to this particular one here, bulk infrastructure. MISA, all of them were engaging with them. So in summary, this slide talks to that, the ongoing engagement. I'm sure when they present MISA and others, you will then get to hear exactly the details of the engagement that we're having with them. But we intend to leverage money from these institutions to address issues of bulk infrastructure such that we can be able to ensure that the developers are able to come. Because the developers, in summary, nje uyenza lula. Zifuna uzibize endaweni othi nanga amanzi akhona. They can just plug in. Nansi sewer nayo sewer lines have been laid. Naku umbane ukhona nazi indlela. Ungenazo ezo zinto ezo, i-developer is gonna not consider you but ready for development. So that's why we are engaging with the OR Tambo and all the others to ensure that we are able to address all of those. Next slide. Now we come to financial viability, which just reflects about how we are performing as a municipality when it comes to finances. We're saying, umasipala wase KSD, xa ujonga zonke izinto, uviable yena, no xa sinazo challenges around revenue collection. Meaning, uba singakwazi ukuqokelela zonke imali ezidue kumasipala, we'd be talking a municipality that is financially viable and financially sustainable. So the fact that we have cash flow challenges is not a reflection yokuba imali ayikho. We are owed money nangoku eninzi various people and various institutions which we have appointed a service provider, a debt collector, to collect that money. We have also other strategies, a revenue enhancement strategy, a revenue recovery strategy, and a revenue protection strategy, just to make sure that we maximize on the collection of municipal revenues. Then we have an evaluation role, and the supplemental evaluation role, we are M-score compliant, and we have a funded budget. All of those are important indicators because they begin to then say to whoever we're dealing with, can I be able to enter into an agreement with Lamaspal? Next slide. The next slide is an analysis of the performance of the municipality. It's from 2019, 2020, 2020, 2021, 2021, 2022. It enables the session to assess now in each of those particular areas, property rates, rental facilities, agency services, and so on. Overall, the picture, over the past 3 years, we are doing well with our finances in terms of improving on collections, in terms of servicing our debts, in terms of dealing with all the issues that relate to the finances. So I will not be dealing in detail with that slide, even the next slide. The next slide even gives percentages that in terms of unyakotile, we were 298, but sapela sipi, iyakunikeza percentages 90.6 by December 2022. In other words, in the last 6 months, which is the nearest period, is a slide, so reflect on that, how much have we been able to collect in terms of all of those different areas. Next slide. Then it is the detail that is indicated there in terms of property rates, in terms of electricity shortfall. Kulento ye electricity shortfall, mandimjonge uCouncillor wami lwase Ward 37, yenye ye wards imali kamasipala elahleka kuyo utata ugqiba pha. In terms of electricity, as our communities in MTHATHA West, we have a challenge with them because kukhona abantu abane illegal connections ezininzi phaya nabangafuni kuyiwe kubo. So enye ye revenue eninzi kamasipala ilahleka kwela cala. Ayiyo yodwa la ndawo nezinye zikhona kodwa iyona iWest, MTHATHA West. Asifuni ba create impression that it is the only area within the municipality where we are incurring serious losses. Nakwezinye areas, but yona, we're saying largely we've got serious problems there which come around theft of electricity and illegal connections. I challenge ke kuba besilwa bakhupha amagqudu namazembe nepeki yento zonke xa kuyiwa pha kuthiwa kufuna udisconnectwa bathi makuliwe nansi ingxaki kwela cala. Aka kwezinye areas siyakwazi umanager kwela cala kuvele uqala imfazwe bathi hayi masekuliwe ngase kufiwe anizungena apha. So sithi masithele nto le honorable members, but ke utata ugqiba siya engage neza communities zakhe naye, and we're making all the strategies to ensure that we can have a way of solving that problem. Refuse removal reflects an increase of 7% amounting to 3.4 million. You will recall that on this particular area your refuse, we have not been doing well under your leadership, we have improved in the last 6 months. I think that needs to be commended because it begins to then say, ikhona into esiyenza right. Ikhona into esiyenza right, whether it comes to businesses, nabantu, when it comes to refuse collection. But we need to then tighten on this particular aspect because the aspect over the past 2 years before, shortfall. But for the first time, we're now starting to turn around to show that abantu bayabhatala and we've got new contracts that are coming on board. And then we also have got a challenge around rental facilities. Paya, even if sine excess, umzekelo ngoku tatsodolophu, ngondi lapha, ndiyafonela, kucinyelwa abantu apha enkululekweni, bayatshwetha, bayakhala, wathi makuvulwe kuthethwe, ndithi mna bhatalani kuthethwe okanye salani agreements. So seso stand off. So we still have challenges around issue ye properties kamasipala, abantu abafuna uhlala free kuzo. This is a problem enkulu in this space sase KSD sabantu abafuna uhlala kwi property kamasipala kodwa bangafuna ubhatala rental. The next slide is on expenditure management. I will not waste your time on it, just to summarize to say that those are the areas of expenditure: employee-related costs, remuneration of councillors, debt impairment, bulk purchases, such that you are able to see, we budget a particular amount year to date by the mid, which is December, how much have we spent when it comes to those particular votes and line items. Next slide. The summary is indicated there, which I'm not going to also deal in detail, but it does indicate around bulk purchases that there's an underspending of 9% amounting to 21 million. I think I've already indicated the challenges we're experiencing around electricity, debt impairment, finance charges. The next slide is on capital expenditure, which also now indicates within the municipality, capital expenditure is part of a component of our budget with departments, technical services, community services, public safety, jalonjalo, where we budget for different things as a capital expenditure. So that is the expenditure, original budget and money expended by September and up to December. We know that we are challenged around electricity, in particular in network. And on that particular area, the council has set aside 15 million in the budget adjustment to deal with issues like electricity. And we are proposing that in the next budget, we aside 45 million, which is the budget which will be adopted by the council in May. So for the next financial year, such that we can be able to address issues around electricity. Please show the next slide. The next slide shows that on EMIG, which is the Municipal Infrastructure Grant, we're spending quite very well. We have been spending 100% in the previous years. And in Alapha midterm, we have done very well. Electricity projects, which are grant funded, by the end of March, would have spent 100% Kodwa, Paya, beskesa nayo indayo basbeslow, but service provider yaqhuba ipha major farm yenza connections around issue electricity. Human settlements, beskesa delays by human settlements. Yimka contractor on site, contract lesiyaziyo ngenxa yoba bekune issue dispute around the issue ye quantum. Besithi imali incinci oko yayi determinwe ngo-2014 bacela itshintsho yabeke ithatha ixesha department. Lonto yenza contractor imke sitini yadelay ngoku expenditure, but we are recovering when it comes to human settlement projects. Izindlu, but there are areas land claims, Kai rail area and other areas. But next slide, I think will give you the specific details in terms of percentages of our expenditure. Ibalekile le information leadership, because I'm sure you read on papers almost palabajiximal. Go to 100 million education has gone back to national fiscals, non-spending. At least this shows that whether we've been given MIG, EPWP, INEP, FMG, and Jalonjalo, we are spending as a municipality, and we're ensuring that akuko mali ijigayo. We have not had that problem. As a result, as in the past 2 years, Khange sibhale letter efuna us explain ku National Treasury ba sicela uba le mali ningayithathi kuba kuthe kwathi. It means our PMU, which is the project management unit, if functional kakuhle, is able to monitor projects. I think that's an opportunity we have to leverage more, because the government says, if I give you money, you don't spend the money, why should I give you more money? Why should I give you more money when I gave you 50 million? You could not spend 50 million, ufuni 100 million. So it's very, very important that if we have been given money, capital funds, we must spend them so that we can then make a case to say, please give us more, because we are spending as a municipality and spending properly. Spending properly. I think the AG report here to Honorable Nok, it is a kuhle. And akukho projects ekuthiwa hayi le mali khange kubhatelwe kodwa akwenziwanga. Kutshiwo nje uba sikhona nje weaknesses here and there that we've got to tighten up. Next slide. The next slide shows amatyala kamasipala and phaya kuyaboniswa uba as at 30 June 2022 and as at December 2022 nanke amatyala kamasipala abantu abasi-owushayo nabantu esinamatyala kubo. Kweli cala lithe over 30 days owing for year ending libonisa amatyala. Kweli cala libonisa i-creditors. I-biggest creditor kamasipala ngu-Eskom. However, we have an agreement with Eskom. Siyaliservice elatyala. We're paying Eskom on a monthly basis. Lelo netyala likhulu kamasipala, as it will show that by December besi-owisha 171 million. Ingxaki yelatyala ka-Eskom ke ezulibhatala liyakhula. But the second twin problem that we're experiencing with Eskom, which is a national problem, is that kwenziwa i-load shedding. Xa kwenziwa i-load shedding abantu abakwazi uthenga umbane, because bangaba yi-3 hours kukho i-load shedding. Kula 3 hours akho mthenga umbane because kukho i-load shedding. But xana kufuneka kubhatale uEskom phela kwenyanga, uEskom ufuna ubhatale ibill yakhe 100%. Alibale uba we have not made money ngenxa ye-load shedding. Now, if you can count the hours per day, uzidibanise per month of losses we're incurring, because umuntu ebezawuthenga umbane today wangawuthengi okanye wangawusebenzisi, awuzophinda ngomso uthi izothenga laa mbane kwanguwuthenge uthengele enye imini. Iyasichana ke laa nto when it comes to dealing with that debt. Had things been normal, I'm sure we would be out of el tyala by now. Next slide. The next slide shows the financial health of the institution, which is analysis of losses by source. It detailed to show by 2018 bekunjani, 2019 bekunjani, 2020 bekunjani, 2021, 2022. It's an important analysis because it is able to show you the direction you are taking. I think I did make that statement to say that overall, this indicates that the municipality is improving, because as you move forward, you should be able to say, this is how I was performing last year, this is how I was performing in the year before, and this is how I'm performing currently moving forward. Next slide. I think it is the detail in that next slide. I will not bore you with the detail. I think people can just read for themselves, as that information is very clear. But on electricity, I think I've highlighted, which is a reflection on the, please show the next slide. Electricity line losses. I think I've talked to this, but I think the aspect that I would need to add on this, which is an aspect that we thought would also assist, ilendo ye private investigator. Kulendo ye private investigator, kukuba we get allegations that kukhona amagosa kamasipala that are collaborating with people out there to connect abantu abacinyelwayo bangafuni ubhatala. But secondly, kune foreign meters that are a problem to the municipality. Foreign meters, ke meters ezingezi ezithengwa ngamasipala. But as meters, any area enengxaki tatu chief whip la area yakho. La area yakho nengxaki phaya. Kukhona abantu phaya abaconnected kumbane kamasipala kodwa ababhatali babhatala kwa-Eskom. And xa sifuna ufaka imeter phaya bakhupha izikrweqe na bakhupha amazembe bathi anizuconnect anizuxhoma nto apha, because kuyo we've come up with a solution ethi let's simple bill Eskom xa besithi bafuna uhlala ku-Eskom. You know, and let's not service the area, because if we service the area and yet they're not paying, it's a problem. So those are some of the challenges we have around the issue of foreign meters in our network. But solutions into a solar farm, we're working on a solar farm, MTHATHA West, Pangase Airport, revise electricity bylaw to ensure prosecution of offenders, ensure sufficient materials and inventory, accelerate fault recovery, improve call center operations and fleet management, periodic sweeping of high tempering areas to disconnect offenders. These are measures that we are implementing as a municipality to ensure that we deal with the issues of electricity losses. Then the next slide shows around telephones. We've done a lot around telephones. A lot that we. As a result, bill kamaspala phones is gradually seriously going down because upper besine contracts no Telkom, sine contracts no Vodacom. And we found ukuba sibhadala uTelkom for lines ezingasebenziyo ezinye zazo. And we did an audit. Safumanisa intoba hayi masiphume kule nto kaTelkom. Then naku Vodacom bill yakhe scrutinize closely just to make sure that we are paying for something that we have seriously incurred. So we have 3 now. Abanye abantu baku Vodacom, abanye baku Cell C, abanye ku Telkom. Kodwa we are closely scrutinizing the bills just to make sure that umasipala akabhatali imali engekho due. Banayo inhlonti yokuba xa ungayijongi la bill bakubhilishe imali more than what is due. So we are doing that. And around printing, with the problem of machines for years, it wasn't functioning, but we have since sorted that particular aspect. And we've got new machines that are functional within the municipality. Status on fleet. On fleet, we have entered into an agreement with West Bank. West Bank has to deal with the challenges of fleet. At least improvement now on repairs and maintenance is zikona. Kangba bendibona imessage esuka komnye umuntu osuka ekuhlaleni esithi uqhuba kakuhle honorable Nokai kulento yokudila nendlela esezilalini compared kwangaphambili. This is owing to at least graders zethu sebenza TLB zethu njalo njalo because those are very very important when it comes to responding. Nase Coffee Bay, a day after that disaster, if fleet yethu bipha eCoffee Bay ivula indlela kodwa la ndlela ibiyonakele pha ibeka public works, and we have said in that regard that sodolophu makabhilishe public works ibuye imali kamasipala because we have not budgeted to support our public works. We have budgeted to do access roads. So we've got to do a calculation how much did you spend goyokusebenza pha eCoffee Bay because that becomes an unfunded mandate and it becomes unauthorized expenditure. But we had to respond because bekuthiwa akuzuhambe akuzukwazi udlula abantu bazuye ezikolweni njalo njalo. We had to respond as a local state. Those are some of the issues leadership that you need to engage on to say uba le function yendlela is best performed at a local level. Kutheni national and provincial government bangayidelegate le function izisoba kamasipala nemali yayo xa kanti bona bazawuthenga igrade benye for the entire King Sabata Dalindyebo okanye the entire OR Tambo. If this function is best performed at a local level, it's one of the things that I think the Premier and the MEC for Transport needs to be engaged on that sort of law. Sicela nisinike le function, nisinike nemali yayo because funds follow function. Next slide. We are planning to also procure more fleet. We are planning to also procure more fleet. An analysis was done to determine what would be the best route of procuring, whether by means of a lease or by means of an installment sale or outright buying, which is bunemali ebankini 200 million, you just go on advert and buy cash. Unfortunately, at the moment, umasipala imali akanayo. So the thinking is to actually go on an installment sale agreement again to replenish the existing fleet such that we can be able to adequately respond over and above ndoba already sasizama as an institution. Next slide. Singena ku rural and economic development. Prior, we're saying there is a strategy, but a serious discussion is needed to say, are we implementing the elite strategy effectively as we should? And is the strategy that we have dealing with all the elements as a problem from an economic development point of view, so that we're able to then tweak the elite strategy and come up with izinto that can directly talk to us. One good example, the issue I've raised around cooperatives, that we at Tatumandla, we need to do an audit as cooperatives per ward. sibe ne-database yazo. How many co-ops exist per ward? Sawugqiba senze i-assessment ye-capacity of these co-ops such that we can be able to equip these co-ops. In other words, uzitraina adequately. From there, sithi ke ngoku, uba kuyatyiwa esikolweni, zikhona ezi co-ops. Uba kunxitywa uniform esikolweni, zikhona ezi co-ops. Uba kuyalinywa, zikhona ezilima i-co-ops. Only that kind of assessment and equipping these co-ops can then ensure that they are participating in the economy of the area. But kukhona ke inkamela tatu sodolophu bawuDalisizwe and funa uba nikhe niyisusa apha emqolo. Nini zi-politicians ezinoyisusa. Le pull down him syndrome abantu abamnyama uba bayithanda into esuka kwezinye inhlanga. Yinto ofuna nishumayele. Yazi abantu abamnyama uyawuza athi umuntu ngexesha umuntu apha next door enasi songa angasithembi esenziwa umuntu omnyama. Afuna uyothemba esenziwe ngumlungu esenziwe ePakistan. Did bakery mna ungavula ibakery tasodolophu bazathi ufana wavula ibakery asuthenga sosonga. Bahambe bothenga kwibakery yomnye umuntu. These are issues that are also contributing to economic development engenzekiyo ebantwini bakuthi because abantu don't want to support each other. And I think it's political. It is something that needs to be addressed if we are to move forward with ensuring that. Because bomnye umuntu ulime itswele, omnye ulime itapile, omnye ulime ispinach. Thenga itapile kulune itapile, uthenga ispinach kulune spinach. Simple. I think it's a political issue, which is a colonization of the mind. Then the other issue we're raising up is the fact that I think I've talked around the issue of the Department of Transport and the routes that we want to open as part of opening the economic base. We know the SEZ, MTHATHA West, and we're saying there should be a route that connects N2 with that area such that abantu don't have to go to the airport, have to come up to Lopin. They can be able to bayofika phaya so that the SEZ function. But we're further saying that we need to review the bylaws and policies to make sure that all of these are implemented as part of ensuring that we deal with the challenges I've highlighted around economic development. Up to now, those are the bylaws and policies that we have: business support policies, spaza shop policy and bylaws, street bylaw, events management policy and bylaws, standard operating procedures. We are tightening up on all of those just to make sure that we're able to have a regulatory mechanism. Abantu abatrader babene permits, trading permits, because trading is a function in the constitution that has been given to municipalities. Now we don't want people trading without authorization kamaspala through a bylaw which will be passed. Secondly, we have engaged with a company called DICLA, which is basically on training, to massively train young people in our space such that young people can be equipped to get involved into the issues of farming and agriculture. We also have an MOU with WSU, exactly to achieve what we are talking about, whether is there value we are deriving out of the fact that we have a university in this particular space. What are the linkages between the university, nathi singumasipala, and why is it that you have a university in this space that cannot be able to, for instance, request you, MMC Dalindyebo, uba uyonza lecture pa with students and be able to talk about practical things? Students are starting economic development per university. Because bona lecturers at universities fund theory, but we can be able to then say, Tina, we have got amagosa, we've got counselors that have got hands-on experience on the challenges faced by the people. I'm just giving that example. If we talk smart city, ICT, I hope it was WSU corner. How can we have a university in this space that has no involvement with us as an institution around the issues of the fourth industrial revolution and ICT? Because ICT is an economic development enabler. So we should be able to talk around those things. How can we support our cooperatives and our SMMEs using ICT skills and other skills? I think we're highlighting some of the challenges we're experiencing. I think in the Lehot, I did mention this, that we issued an advert calling for 15 cooperatives. Out of the bidders, only 3 were responsive. From a functionality point of view, 12 we could not get. Sapinda sayikhuphi advert okwesibini asafumana nenye cooperative. Second advert. That's wasteful expenditure. Ngoku asizoyikhupha yesithathu Mr Mandla niqale nonze training niqale nizi-audite niziqole nizitrain before siphinde sikhuphe i-advert. Ngoku ziyabuza ezinye uba le 3 kutheni kusebenza i-3. I had to respond komnye umfana ndifakela uWhatsApp message abe accuse no Mr Guleni. Oko kufike wena apha wena usebenzisa i-cooperatives ezintathu kodwa sikhona apha siyalamba. Today akazi ngathi kuye mhlakazi go to SCM ambobuza pha ku Mr Zibi yobuza pha ku SCM manager bazintoni ezizibangela uba ningabikho responsive so that we can have those things addressed ni train nibonise uba nansi indawo nibetheka kuyo moving forward. I think that is very important, but that's capacity building. Maseko good governance and public participation. Paya in summary leadership. We have a functional committees, the council, uqala kwi council, standing committees, mayoral committee, MPEC, disciplinary board, audit committee, and so on. It's a summary of to say that from a governance point of view, we've got the structures and the structures are functional, which is very important because from an AG point of view, ubuhulumende akasebenzi and akenzi ngoba ifama uyenza even in terms of risk management. Next slide shows the progress in terms of the audit. That in 2019-20 with a qualified opinion, 2020-2021 with a qualified opinion, 2021-2022 have reached an unqualified opinion, and now want to work towards the institution must now work towards a clean audit, and we have started that work at Sotoloop. Yesterday, if not day before, one of our officials can nifike niyobuza i-question ibenye pha kule compliance tatugana esinengxaki yayo abasinikeze yonke i-compliance register yabo sonze i-comparison yabo neyethu xa kuthiwa bane-clean audit, so that we're able to say i-weakness kwethu i-compliance register yintoni and how we are coordinating and implementing our compliance register, so that going forward we can clean issues e-compliance. Xa besuka emnquma because siyabenchmark kwezinye institutions bazawuya nakomnye umasipala just to make a comparison, to make sure that we clean around the issues of compliance. I'm just giving that example to say those are the steps we're taking to ensure that we deal with the issues of the opinion from an AG point of view. I think the detail just talks to the specific findings that we have been getting, but of paramount importance, as of many findings, we develop an audit action plan to clean those particular findings. Next slide. I think the next slide talks to exactly those particular issues from an internal audit point of view. Internal audit wethu functional and internal audit wethu uyaziqhuba i-audits internally. Phaka management ke asina confusion at all. We know that it's important that departments respond to the internal audit findings, because uba se respondanga ku-internal audit findings kuzawufika external auditors u-AG baqala bathathe la audit report. Umzekelo, they audited HR and they were able to pick up abantu abafumana double benefits, abantu abathintini kwi-payroll, and so on and so forth. Now we've got to implement those findings, internal audit, and Mr. Noto is very clear about that we've got to clean all the issues that the internal audit had identified around our payroll. So in summary, those are the issues that they have identified and how we've been dealing with them. Status, about there 73 findings and how those 73 findings have been attended to. MPEC functional, I think in summary, the next two slides talk to that. Next slide, Lula. I think I had reflected inazo zonke i-tools zokufunctiona MPEC, which is the audit charter plan, audit committee charter, APEC planner, internal audit charter, njalo, all of them, they are in place, function systems. Risk management, this is one area esinengxaki kakhulu si-institution. We must be honest. It's very, very important ukuba singazikhathi sithi siqhuba kahle noma siqhubi kahle. Kule area ye risk management, chairperson we risk committee said, level yenu ningumasipala, we have an external chairperson or a member of the audit committee. What level yethu around it risk is ezantsi. In other words, appreciating risk management and ensuring that we attend and deal with issues of risk management. With risk management, you have got a strategic risk register and an operational risk register. On a monthly basis, we've got to take actions to make sure that we deal with those issues that have been identified with risk registers. Kukhona abantu kubonakala babakayiqondi kahle le risk register and how it's supposed to work, and we're tightening and strengthening departments to make sure that we deal with that particular issue. Because risk assists us to be able to answer a question 80. What is it that can cause you not to achieve the targets you had set, or the strategy that you had designed for yourself as an institution? Then you identify those issues, and you've got to mitigate, manage those issues to get them out of the way so that you can be able to reach your destiny. Next slide. I think the next slide just in detail shows things that we have done in terms of policies, strategy. I will not be reading all of them that we have been able to adopt, but all of those policies are being implemented. That's a summary I can give. Next slide. In terms of major risks, those are just a high level indication about the major risks esijongene nazo in the institution, and we've highlighted the inability to meet financial obligations due to cash flow challenges. I think we have been talking about this, and I've earlier on reflected ukuthi we are having a revenue recovery strategy, a revenue enhancement strategy, and a revenue protection strategy to deal with that issue, cash flows. Because a municipality that has no reserves, cash reserves, lo masipala akanawubizwa ngoba ngumasipala financially oqhuba kakuhle, because you should be able to do your budget such that you spend but able to keep something that ngemini kukhona ingxaki you're able to tap from your cash reserves and be able to attend. Umzekelo ngokuba besine cash reserves bese asuka sihambe uthenga iplant yatsodolo bese ngazohamba soboleka imali for uthenga iplant. KSD is also faced with security challenges that threatens human life and municipal property. I think the issue of security and crime, basically, electricity network yethu kukobana abana besiba cables. And we've got to talk about this because the communities, especially ward councillors, I would like you to note this particular issue in the urban area, because in the community meetings, these criminals must be exposed. Mamu speak. As criminals, I'll put me Latin as Mamu speak. I call Hlati criminal. Criminals, is. And no mntu othengisa apha uthiwa une scrap yard esithengisa ezinantsi uyaziwa. So the sooner we're able to attend to the issue of crime, nabantu who are stealing cables, kamaspala, babulala abantu, and so on and so forth, through community safety forums, expose these people. Because if we are a community that is going to protect criminals, it's wrong. Mnake pakwami ba uDalisizwe, ba unyanami ufike phethe ifone entsha athi afike phethe iPhone, ndingazange ndimthengele iPhone. Andinawukwazi uthula, ndingambuza uba mntanami uthatha phi iPhone. Iqala phaka into responsibility as a member of the community. Uthatha phi iPhone? Hayi ndiyithenge kubani. Ufuna ungayithembi londo, yise kuye. Principle yakwami ntasodolophu, into engeyapha engathengwanga ndiyimi ngathengwanga ngumkama ingangeni emzinami. Nami into yami yakho mntanami uthengele yona mayingayethomini. Through that, to avoid ndoba uhlale apha kanti uhleli nesela apha elibifoni zabantu. So it starts at that level, that in our communities, we must not tolerate. Ubona umntana wakho enempahla ezintsha, umntana wakho unefone ento akazithengelanga nguwe, uthi uthatha phi izinto xa ungabuzi ungumzali. I think if we can get to that level, no muntu ozawufika egcwele inyama ifridge kodwa akakuxhelwa apha ekhaya. Kodwa nansi inyama igcwele efridgini. Surely mos uhambe oba igusha yomntu lo wayihlinza. I think if we can deal with issues of crime from that angle as parents and as members of the community, so when umsebenzi wabathatha amapolisa easier, because this thing can mamela on Facebook that boy, this is bad. Xa kukho crime kukhonjwa ingxaki ubheka icele. Kukhonjwa ingxaki emapoliseni. Is it possible to have a police officer ecam komzi nomzi? It's completely impossible. Amapolisa ancedisana nathi as members of the community. So ithetha ukuthi we need to ensure that we've got functional community safety forums to deal with that issue yearly risks. Others won't have investors coming to this space if there's a lot of crime. The next one, prolonged determinations on matters of land invasion and claims by the courts. This risk has been a serious problem for KSD, land claims and land invasions. We're also highlighting on that. Fraud and corruption risk, which is also prevailing in some business units within the municipality. Iyaqhuba into ye fraud and corruption, but is manifesta ngendlela ke ezahlukahlukeneyo ezincinci. Umzekelo, we have had situations of diesel theft, phaya kwa fleet, misuse of vehicles, traffic officers taking bribes, and so on and so forth. Abantu ba electricity kuthiwa ba connect abantu illegally. As an institution, as part of our agenda to improve on ethical standards, it's something that on an ongoing basis we've got to deal with. Enye besandu ibhaqa recently, ngaba phaya kwa building plans, ba approve plans phaya uba they collaborate with some people externally, ubone kukhona an approved building plan without having followed all the processes that need to be followed. So we're just highlighting uba on an ongoing basis, we're dealing with issues of corruption and criminality within the institution. Litigation register. I think that slide reflects on all the challenges around the litigation register. It details the cases per department within the institution. But iyakubonisa phaya departments that have got many cases and a huge possible cost to the municipality as a result of those. But we do want to indicate into it, we must not as a session think that litigation register yethu inkulu because of problems only with the institution wise amagosa. Litigation register yethu inkulu also because apha MTHATHA abantu bayayithanda icourt noba into engafunisi icourt babalekele court and kwamagqwetha amaninzi abaphila ngalento yiyo lento legal advisor bethu bethreatenisho yenye area le abantu baphila ngayo because kuyaziwa uba i-KSD is a cash cow. Now as we try to strengthen build legal department wethu kukhona abantu abangayithandi yolonto le because they know that they will end up not being able to sue umasipala ngezinto eziflimsy. That's why Mr. Noto the other day wayesithi xa esithi umuntu hayi elivili ligqajuzwe yipothole uthi ke ngoku Mr. Noto buphi ubungqina balonto boba elivili ligqajuzwe yipothole because funeka usinikeze i-evidence ebonisa loo nto. Anybody can just xa ufuna uthenga lamatayari athi lamatayari wami agqajuzwe yipothole yase-KSD kanti ubona nje a quick way of getting new tires. So you have such chance takers as well. Ekufuneka sidefende ke ngoku sikwazi ubonisa uba no, it is not a pothole ligqabhuzela amavili. Now as illegal traders ke zininzi nazo phaya xa sizama uziregulate apha edolophini zibaleka ziye ecourt ziyosibambisa. That's why some of the cases are going a way back and zikwa public safety because law enforcement is under public safety. But these cases where they are trying to enforce the bylaws. Yabona umzekelo niboqaphela apha edolophini kwizitato zonke kukhona abantu abalapha ngase-FNB uza ngapha ngawajimi aba mama njengoba abanye abantu bezisonge ezanto bathengisa kuzo abazisonge zabo dlala pha because basi-interdictor. They went to court and interdicted the municipality. Njengoba abanye abantu beziqoqa nje bozifaka bazifihla abaya baziyeka hlale pha ubeka wazitatsha ezazinto babaleka baye court. Ndanditheke kuMr. Mnqokuyi nakavuka ebusuku athathe itruck lashe zonke ezazinto zijula kude bavuka ezanto zingekho bangaya nothathwe ngubani uJola kayenzi ke lento ndandithiwa that is the solution because ubeke wasondela nje kuwe they run to court bangafuni ususa ezazinto. Let me pass litigation register. Progress on partnerships and the status. We are just reflecting there on a number of networks that we are creating as a municipality as part of enhancing our capacity as an institution. KSD, TVET, Walter Sisulu, MISA, Cities Network, Durban University of Technology, SAGRA, City of eThekwini, Sanral. I want to reflect just on two ways. The Cities Network, we are entering into a formal MOU with them. We had a meeting with them, but says bona 13 development precincts that you have. Kodwa, Tina, sound supporter for starters, go 1. Out of the 13, identify 1 so that we can make a test case, a city, Nancy focus, because that's all over the show. We're not going to see the impact. So we've agreed on the SEZ area, that precinct, Ipangasa Airport. They said they want to support us at least on 1 for starters. It does not mean that they will not give us advice on all the others, but they are going to focus on that particular one. Usandral, on an ongoing basis, are engaged nabo because we know that there are projects that they are also going to be running. Nangobe meeting nabo recently, just to talk about issues, pothole patching, cleaning around the highways and so on and so forth, just to make sure that we have a functional agreement with them. Next slide, 5-year reflection on performance. Basically, that's those slides, the performance, zibonisa, how the municipality has been performing over the years in terms of the KPAs. Usuka ngo-2016, 2017, 2017, 2018, 2018, 2019. Now, if you look and analyze and read there, you will see that there has been improvement in terms of performance. Umasipala in the whole province, owine number 1, meaning usete targets, was achieved by targets zake. Ngaphezu komasipala bonke, ngumzimvubu. If you look at the last slide, Glande performance, it will show you ukuba during the midterm, we have improved in that as KSD. We have been able to, I think that slide is on the one with the graph. Greater. Yeah, that's no this previous slide. This slide, if you look at that slide reflects a performance that has been achieved upper mid-year, which is December 2022. Now, if you look at that slide, we executive and council 95%, budget and treasury 62%, corporate services 72%, public safety 69%, rural and economic development 61%, community services 80%, human settlements 63%, technical services 71%. These are targets were set before the start of the financial year, July or December. Meaning, if we can sustain this, we can 100% achieve all the targets that we had set if there is a focus within the municipality, uyokuma go June, as we implement the SDPIP. Akukho nenye engaphansi ko 50%, which is a good indicator. Akukho nenye engaphansi ko 60%. It means those that are 63%, 61%, 69%, 62% just have to make sure that they improve so that we can be able to achieve all the targets. That is an indication of a performing municipality. This is a reflection of that. The next slide is a reflection on the IDP assessment. Also, 2017 up to now, we are doing well. We have been given a report on 2022-2023 and we are high. So IDP as a KSD has always been rated as high, meaning zonke inantsika i-dots iyaz nantsika iyaz right. Umahluko ke ngoku xa i-plan yakho i-right, implementation then becomes key, because ndoba ube ne-plan enhle encwadini but ungayi-implement, then it becomes a problem. Then next slide, proposed goals and objectives for IDP 2023-2024. These slides, leadership, I think commissions, that's where we'll have to discuss more. This is a product of the work which has been done by clusters, by departments, around spatial planning. I want to have an effective and efficient implementation of the spatial planning in a compliant manner, meaning all the issues that relate to spatial planning, effectively and comply in the process with all the laws and the regulations moving forward. Because any Chief Whip, and he highlighted because it's very important. If we are government departments, in the past, we were compliant. Kwakhiwe phaya emqanduli i-government building. Le government building ngoku kufuneka kungenwe kuyo kuthiwa KSD sicela inantsika occupation certificate. Uthi umama uTopia, fine, I don't have a problem, but where is your zoning? 1. Where is your approved building plan? 2. Asiveli. Wakhe njani without an approved building plan? Now, if KSD must issue an occupation certificate, if that building collapses and people die, the municipality will be at fault, because how did you issue an occupation certificate? So, class compliance, that ubuza kwakha, kufuneka kuqale kujongwe le ndawo zakwakha kuyona ayo flood zone, as an example. Ayingomhlaba ongovu naturally building ngenoma kuwo. Kudlulwe apha kuthiwa hayi ke lo mhlaba uright wona. Apply zoning, because indawo which was meant for businesses. If you want to establish something else, apply zoning, kujongwe imithetho. Kuthiwe is a building plan, ijongwe, approve, kuthiwe ke nguyakha. Ubuvele wakha wagqiba uzogqiba uzofuna i-occupation because abantu abasebenzi ngoba anyhow hayi maqale bekhona i-occupation certificate sama inhla sathi no asizukwazi. There are many of such instances abantu abafuna unqumlela. Pa ePRD Jasodolop, did you know that that building increased from another 12 floors to about 18 floors, not following the processes. Now bafuna ngoku into ebanikezayo ba la building right, yet parking is not sufficient there and other things that the municipality checks. Then when they don't get those things, babaleka baye ko premier, baye ko MEC, kuthiwa hayi KSD yala. Now we have a planning department and a special department that says, nazi dots that you must tick before we can be able to give you a document. That issue of compliance talks to that because it protects everyone. But besides, very important, if you relax your building lines, njengoba sebesike dispute apha ngase-SAVOY, kumuntu wakhe iflat pha, uthi omnye umama ohlala ngapha, xa kuzawakha iflat engaka ubande, abantu zawukwazi nini ngokwazi abantu ihambeza apha eyadini yami. Xa kukhona abantu abazawuthi bepha kwesa flat bakrobe bandibone pha uba ndiyantswayisa because kaloku ndinomzo lapha. Xa ndithanda ndifuna uphuma nditswayise emzini nami. So umisa la building uthi mawumiwe because lento is violating i-privacy yethu. Now, i-building lines ngezilungiselwa loo nto ba idonga malihambe endawoni such that ummelwane engakwazi ubona omnye ummelwane ngapha. So xa sithetha nge-building lines, we're talking about those things. Bayabhala ke niboke nijonge ephepheni. Relaxation of building lines. Bonke abantu aba bafuna urelax i-building lines. Abafuna uhamba kula kwesa meters that have been set by the law pha koMamutopi. Sicela i-relaxation e-building lines and then we say no. Next slide. Basic service delivery. I will not go through all of them, leadership. Those are all proposals for the next financial year. I think in the commissions, you can read them because they are not final, they are proposals. Then let's go to municipal transformation and institutional development. I think prior we're just talking about the state as an institution, that the positions are all filled except for Director Human Settlement. We've advertised that position, but we do not get sufficient response. It will again go on advert. We have a functional performance management system currently, as a reflection indicates. We've got, we're now looking at ensuring that there's a system for political office bearers. And we have got an MPEC now, a functional in the local labor forum, which is very important. Next slide, which is a reflection on the structure of the municipality. We've got an approved organizational structure, which is currently going to review. And that structure, in summary, next slide, which says staff establishment and institutional performance. It just highlights key issues around the issue of the structure, that the structure has to ensure that it takes care of all of those particular issues in terms of minimum competencies. Performance management, jalonjalo. Next slide, vacancy rate. If vacancy rate yethu iphezulu, reason why iphezulu is cash flow. We don't have sufficient budget to appoint in all of the positions that are there. That's why it is important that wishes to see balances with the reality. Can we afford as a municipality to have all of those positions filled? The quality of staff that we have is also very important because the more skilled your staff, the faster they do the work, and the more you're able to deliver or to achieve your set targets. But at the moment, those are the challenges in terms of the vacancy rate, as you will see per department. Next slide. Employee-related costs, which indicates that we are spending to date in terms of the budget 49.3%, in terms of councillors 45.6% as at December 2022. But in terms of the total percentage of the norm, which is 40%, we are just below that in terms of the norm. And yakubonisa over the years about how we have been doing. Bangoku siku 39, but ngaphambili besiku 40, saku 35, saku 36. Next slide. Siku process ke review of the organizational structure. I will not bore you with all the details of the steps that have to be followed, but we are doing all the steps. Key issues. I think I've spoken on some of the key issues. Next slide. I've spoken on some of the key issues that are facing us. Issues of land claims, land invasion. Land invasion, land invasion, it does require a balance, a fine balance between an institution that enforces the law, but in the community that should be responsive as well in terms of inkosi. and others. Kungahambi kucandwa nje amanxiwa all over ngabantu abangabantu abasebenza nohulumende. And then issues around housing. We want to implement social housing. We are talking about insufficient inner city housing, meaning abantu abahlala edolopini. We know that buildings eziningi edolopini are dilapidated, ezinye ziyatsha, and so on and so forth, and we must address that particular issue. The capacity of the various departments within the municipality to execute their mandate, dependence on grants, meaning financially, asikakwazi uba siqiniseke uba sisitrongo. A decaying infrastructure, I think I've talked about electricity budget that we need to ensure that we replenish our network, land administration issues, property management, tenure rights, upgrading, and so on. I think those are the issues I was just talking about in terms of compliance. Land audit, which we are doing just to make sure that we know who owns which building and which land. Smart city and GIS capability, we're working on that particular one to ensure that we improve our GIS capacity singumasipala. Apa tatotolobu city apa noba ngamangcwaba noba zindlela noba electricity network funa siyiplote kwi system nge touch of a button we can be able to see ba zihamba phi I services kamasipala, which is very important. We are working with MISA to acquire that capacity moving forward. Issues around housing, which we must have an ongoing discussion in terms of the different types of housing that we need, because low cost housing only is a problem. Plus, housing, we must talk a housing mix, middle income, social housing, high income, to make sure that we accommodate all the different people that want to come, including those that are in the high end of the market in terms of their incomes. And also issues of informal settlements that we must also address. If vision Gamaspala is the same vision and mission, but the session can look at that and say, I must see tweak, okay, must see. It just indicates, but it in currently a developmental people-centered municipality is heading radical economic transformation in an environmentally and socially sustainable manner. Proposed projects, technical services is the first one. Those are the projects, status of each project per department. I mean, sorry, what technical services, projects in the form of indlela, amaholo, and other things. Registered projects, unregistered projects, zihamba stages before it's implemented. Uqala ngoyi prioritizer, uhambe uregisterisha ku MIS, ubuye xa registered, wenze planning yayo through consultant. In other words, it designs, uye ku SCM process, and then uqalise implementation. So that is the status basically of projects as apply registration, as registered. Ezinye zazo are on a stage. Next slide you will see. Say implementation. Pass all the slides around the projects. I will not read each project. I think the ward councillors can check a project that belong to what zabo. There's a mix there. Amaholo, electricity, housing, jalo, and roads. Landfill sites, human settlements. I think those under human settlements are the projects Maiden Farm, New Brighton, Rail. Ezinye not yet confirmed. Imali housing isuka kwa human settlements in the province. Thina implementing agent yabo. So there are various projects as implementation, but kube khona projects that we have planned from our own internal budget. As is necessary processes as part of the planning, because if you're talking surveys, for instance, before you can actually have some of the buildings, you've got to do a planning and a survey. That's why we have set aside that 4.7 million. In the past, the municipality has not been budgeting properly for issues of planning. Hence, it affected how we are implementing some of the projects. Next slide. I will not in detail go through it, but it will show you key game-changing projects. I'll just highlight. Paya Bedford, there's a private fund that is proposing a development kweza farmers Bedford, MTHATHA West. That's why it says privately funded. The person owns the farms and is only coming to the municipality to say, put bulk infrastructure, to development. And then you've got Boa Precinct, Airport SEZ, Automotive Precinct, Vigisville. We have set aside 3 million as a proposal for the next financial year to make sure that we do those detailed plans I was talking about. Mamela Taxi Rank. Pai Mamela Taxi Rank, we want to do a development, but belongs to Municipality, and we think that we could have another a mini mall there okanye a full mall working with the taxi people njengoba i-taxi rank, but we can have ezinye izinto zifakwa phantsi komhlaba noba yi-parking mhlawumbi as an example. CPT garage, that is also being thought about because nengxaki parking in town. Transfer of council properties. I think we have a report that went to council around issues of some of the properties around town. So those are basically just some of the projects under human settlement. Let me not read each project. Community services, all departments have highlighted their proposed projects. They are going to depend on Mr. Giolo, no Honorable Ghana, ukuba as projects, as fundana in the next budget, 2024. I've already indicated ukuba we are proposing as management 45 million before we take projects for electricity infrastructure and network. Then we fund as projects. If now there's no sufficient budget, some of the projects may have to get out of the window. But these are projects that departments have submitted to say want to do ablution facilities, for instance, community services. I'm not sure about investors or slide. They want to do ablution facilities. They want to do a cemetery management system, a waste to energy project. So as in projects, all of the ones as it is equitable share. The biggest grant, equitable share, which is an internal decision. But all the external funded projects, then there's no problem. So let's go through all the projects. See a quick slide, SCT. Executive and council, executive and council. As I've indicated, all departments have submitted projects. I think the projects are the last slide, ladies and gentlemen, honorable members. The commissions will then have to think and engage on the proposed projects, which one is a priority project as per the thinking of the strategic planning session. I thank you very much, Tatsotolo.
Molweni. Good afternoon. Goeiemiddag. Gamalam, Craig Goliath. Jabulela MM for the overview. Let me just greet the Honorable Mayor, Mr. Honorable Executive Mayor, Mr. Nelani is just at the back there greeting everyone. I don't even think he can hear me. All councillors, Honourable Speaker, all protocols observed. Igamalami Craig Goliath, I'm your facilitator Namslanje for the rest of the week. So welcome everyone. Diabulela. Let me begin by just a couple of house rules. I want you just to, while I'm just doing a quick introduction, just make a few notes for the MM. So questions we're going to be taking for the MM. I thought I'll just take the opportunity just to squeeze in a few things before we get started on the questions. It's very nice to be in the session, and at best we try to be in two places like Judy Boucher at the same time. Ne? Now there's a challenge there because it's nice to check emails, nice to check your phone, WhatsApps and so on. So normally what we would normally do is ask you to put your phone in an envelope, bring them here. We've got SAPs here, so you don't have to worry if there's a challenge. And have them here on the table and then only look at that phone during lunchtime. Inye, ne? That would be option one. But I'm going to do something slightly different and then just say to you, I know that many of you have got lots of things to do. So I'm going to ask you, the first rule is to switch your phone on silent. Inye. Number two is to turn it flat, facing flat, so that you don't even see that screen. Because if you see that screen, you know you're going to answer that message. And put it on flight mode if you have to. That's the first one. The second thing is those emails. They're going to be there. They're going to come in all the time. So we're going to have to find a smart way to manage them. Because if you have your laptop open, you are very tempted to read those mails. And then you realize, yes, this one I didn't answer. I quickly going to answer this one, that one, and the other. And you're going to lose focus. So I want you to stay with us on that issue also. At best, if you can, if you don't have a choice, close it. Then, what we do is, during lunchtime, we make a time to check mail. So that you, before we go to lunch or just after lunch, we have a 15-minute time to just check your mail before we get started. So those are the two critical issues that I would want you to please do for me before. Number three, but I've got a fantastic team here on my left-hand side from KSD, I'm sorry, ne? Admin team. They capture the issues. If I lose something quickly, I just put my earpiece on and I get a translation. So I don't miss anything. But if you're comfortable, ask your question in isiXhosa, ne? It's not going to be lost. Don't worry about me, I'll catch up. All right? So feel free to use any language that you're comfortable with. We've got a team here from Globant. We've got a team from KSD. We pull things together. We won't allow things to get lost. So that is the second point I want to share with you. If you have your questions ready, what we're going to do is, before I allow you to ask some questions, I know that was a very, very, very insightful presentation from the MM. Lots of detail, lots of discussion. But I want us just to do one thing before we go there. Remember why we are here. When we are done, Friday, Thursday, I want us to be clear on the resolutions of the strat session. I want it to be very practical in the actions that must be done. I want to be clear on the resolution. I want to be clear on the time frame. And I also want to be clear on the responsible persons or departments that are going to be done. So I want you, and if there's a budget, yes, of course. I don't know if they will be able to answer that immediately, but if there's no budget, if there is, it's also better. So if I just quickly raise a few points that the Honorable Executive Mayor raised. He was talking about the vision of being a metro. So the question I want to ask you is, what kind of metro are you envisioning? And I want you to start with the end in mind. This is a defining moment. The Executive Mayor was very clear. It's a defining moment, Namhlanje, and this way forward. So have in your mind what kind of metro you want to build over the next 5 years in here. And make this session a major contributor to that defining moment and to that vision. So those are just a few things I want to share with you as we begin Namhlanje today. Diabulela. Right. Now, what are we going to do is, just quickly on the program, Namhlanje, we're going to look at the bigger picture, Namhlanje, today. Ne? We're looking at, the intention was actually to spend a bit of time looking at the macro picture. And the MM has taken us also through both in terms of internal and external issues. There is a few presentations that we're going to be receiving from external stakeholders. Unfortunately, they are exogenous to us. They are out of our control. Sometimes they'll be late, sometimes they'll be on time, and they always have their own agenda. So we may adjust the program accordingly. So please bear with me on that one. So today we're going to cover some of those bigger picture, macro issues. And we have a few presentations that are coming after lunch. And then we will also look at the institutional arrangements within the organization. The issues that are holding us back, as the Honorable Speaker had said earlier. Internally, what are the challenges? What are the issues we need to do with? We'll look at governance, financial, and then we'll look at governance of the organization. Because in order for us to get there, we also need to make sure that the organization is fit for purpose. It knows how to take us there. And we've built the organization accordingly. We cannot build an organization that is supposed to take us to the moon, but it's moving too slow. It can't even get us out of the atmosphere. So we need to do that. So that's important. Further on in the program, I think it's tomorrow afternoon, if my memory serves me correctly, we are going to, yes, it's Wednesday. We're going to have an opportunity to go into a commission structure. So some of the presentations that we may not be able to cover in the plenary, namhlanje, we're going to take that discussion into a commission. And in that commission, we're going to do three important things. We're going to flag the discussion that we're having here that we cannot necessarily exhaust here. We're going to take it to that commission. We're going to unpack it, and out of that discussion, there's going to be a resolution. There were also strategic planning sessions that was held by various departments. Remember, each department had its own strat session. And they also raised issues, both internally and externally, both in terms of governance and budget, that they will also discuss in the commission. There was also a lekgotla that was held on Friday. Again, issues were raised, and you might find that there's synergy between those two issues. It may not be completely far removed from one another, but the point here is that out of that commission, you're going to come with a clear resolution. Now, in the commissions, we are not going to spend too much time discussing, because in the plenary, which is going to be, I think it's in the afternoon or Thursday morning, we are going to get an opportunity to interrogate and confirm that resolution. So I want us to be focused where we're going in terms of the next 3 days. So this is the map. I'm reflecting on the prayer earlier this morning now from I think it's Mr. Reverend Mbao, ne? Mr. Mbao, Reverend Mao, sorry. Mabu. So he was talking about the dream, right? Pharaoh and the interpretation of the dream. See, it is Xhosa, but I quoted most of it. So I'm also giving you the vision, the bigger picture where we're going, right? So I'm taking you on a journey through the desert. Ne? Moses, I will have to play the role of Moses, and you will have to be the Egyptians, and we're going through the desert. But I need to give you a clear direction in terms of where we're going. All right? All right. So this is the time of decisive action, as has been said by the Honorable Executive Mayor. And decisive action doesn't mean we must spend 10,000 years of planning, but we need to move. Start with the first step, and this is where we are. Okay. And goes, thank you very much for that quick introduction. Let us move on now. We're going to entertain some of the questions to the Honorable, to the MM. On the MM's presentation, please focus on the MM's presentation. Let us do that. Shall we have a first round? Questions? Comments on the MM's presentation? Okay. I'm going to ask my, okay, there's the mic coming here. Inye, Zimbinye. I'm going to take 3 at a time. Is it right, MM? And the team. The questions may not necessarily be answered directly by the MM. He may delegate them to other people. Ne? Okay. Is your hand up? Okay. So it's 1, Inye, Zimbinye, Zintatu. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Mine would not be a question, definitely. I think it's going to be a comment. I think that there's a lot of work that we still need to do around the analysis of the implications of the gross value add per sector. I want to make one example. The implications that are given, for instance, on the finance sector are purely implications on the regulatory side of things. They do not really talk on the socio-economic implications of the finance sector as it exists within KSD. One of the first issues at the macro level would be the concentration of the sector. What's the market structure of the finance sector within issues? So one of the issues that I think that would need to be done is to, what's the market structure per sector currently? Who are the participants in that particular market? Where are they from and all those issues? What's the spatial participation in terms of that market structure? Are the participants found in one ward? Are the participants in the finance sector found dispersely, decentralized in all the wards of KSD and all those issues? And are the benefits that accrue from the value produced in that particular sector able to drive economic development and assist us to unlock economic growth, reconstruction, and many other issues around our economy? So I think for me, that's the first issue around the analysis that I think we need to do further. Whilst appreciating, obviously, what we've done so far in terms of the implications, but the implications need to go beyond the regulatory framework, which is a governance issues, but now they need to also go to the extent of what are the actual socio-economic implications per sector. Because if we do that, then I think we can at least move towards a clear strategy. The second issue for me is the whole understanding of vertical and horizontal value chain linkages per sector to our local economy. Because you would find that many of these sectors, if you talk, for instance, the biggest contributor, community services, the MM talks very well about the linkages between community services in the retail sector, for instance, the booming finance sector, of instance, that all those other secondary sectors after community services are actually dependent on community services. But I think we need to go further in terms of the horizontal and vertical linkages, both forward and backward linkages into the different sectors in order for us to fashion a clearly aligned strategy with our Vision 2030 and our en route to a metro, leveraging on the existing economic activity in our particular area. So these are some of the issues that I think we may need to delve deeper. I just had those two comments. Thank you very much.
Agos, thank you. It's your turn, sir.
Thank you, facilitator. Ndithi ngqangane entsibazayo. Ndifuna uqala nje phana, or let me start straight there, because MMC Ghana has actually covered on the economic side. But what I would like to know, and maybe in our commissions we may discuss with it, this is, we dreaming of having a rural metro. Our area then is more than 90% rural. Now for us to have that dream coming through, the defining moment is this one, is these 3 days that we are here. spoke of 45 million rand for the next financial year for infrastructure, which is far less looking at what we're facing: energy crisis, road infrastructure, and crime. If then, in this strat plan, we're not pinpointing these three as things that will lay a solid foundation for us to be able in 2026 to get this metro status. Without energy supply, road infrastructure network, crime, and capacity building in our institution, there is no way that we will be able to do what we want to achieve. Hence then, when you speak of economic development, what are the short-term, medium-term, long-term sectors that once we have the infrastructure developed in our municipality, then we know there are these short terms in each and every sector that will be revenue generation for the municipality in order to be able to provide other services. If then we can, from the side of can get an elaboration, as he was saying, he is looking at having the spaza shops, the co-ops being gathered together to be capacitated. Also, the executive mayor stated of the disaster that we have. So technical department to be able to look at the climate change to ensure that the road infrastructure network at least does resist these disasters that are more often caused by the climate change. Thank you.
Thank you. Sagas?
Mandibulise kumuntu wonke bethu lapha endlini. Ndingaqalanga zihlalo. Ndicela bethunana ndini introduce kumuntu eningamazi clean name yakhe. La ndoda yakuthi le ngudlamini lowa. Aniyambona moswa kwa isakhiwe hayi ngudlamini. Bona Dlamini.
Give me a clear name.
Incinci le hayi ngwakho kwenu ningaba Dlamini bamnyama nina. Bethunana ndine concern ngalento yonke le presentation ka MM has said a mouthful kangoba iba ibindime ningalawulo benzave ndigoduke yonke lento niyawuphinda itshiwo ngabantu yilento seyipha ku MM. But I'm worried about one little thing MM athe touch kuyo, like money mining and everything. Dine problem within myself that we are writing reports month after month to the office of the speaker. None of the reports comes back to us to reflect. And we have a beautiful template as a yardstick, a word profiling. A lot has been there and nobody came to me. For instance, I've got in my ward a lot of mining, like sand, grit, a quarry for a crushed stone and isabunge. Layer itatwa ngabantu nje for personal gain. It does not come to the community and they harvest it from the community areas, not from their own backyards. For instance, in my projects to come, there is a lot of alien trees like wattle tree that could be used and turned to a chaka or a coal. And it is contained in my word profiling, but nobody comes to me to say, what do you actually want to do? Now, we are writing lucrative reports here and there is no feedback. Ndiyacela bethuna feedback so that we know where we are. Amongst other things, MMITHATHA is agriculture. It's not only agriculture, it must be intensive agriculture where we invite investors to come with a specific project and a program over a period of years that we say we intend handing over these pieces of land, because people have got vast land, but they haven't got money to plow in that land. And some of the people, they earn only grant, and you cannot even have a hectare on a grant because you cannot even buy enough food and clothes for children. UMM has also highlighted something that I have said over and over again. Kukhona MM Park la area ndihlala kuyo, ishop eza shop zokuqala. Ndithe bantwini resuscitate this thing. And you come as a company, you buy in bulks, aninawaxothela amakwerekwere akhoyo azazihambela. Once you become part and parcel of this project and don't buy from them, bazazihambela ngokwabo. Now, we haven't got funds, we've got no advisors, we've got nobody to say this investor should do ABC, but it is there in our reports. Bendiyicela. Another thing, there was a lucrative thing that came, which was these skills audits. People are asking, where's the skills audits? Where are the results? There are no results. They are not empowered. A youth is not employed, blah, blah, blah. Thank you very much. Bye.
Mr. Archie, you want to give
MTHATHA.
direction? Oh, sorry.
I'm on the floor already.
You're on the floor. Sorry.
Chair, I'm going to talk about two things. The land claims that the MM talked about. I think about 2 years back, we had a session with the National Land Commissioner here. And specifically, the Land Commissioner said, by the way, into me I went talk about Fuchan, Aberos. By the way, she said, unfortunately, the Zimbabwe land claimants were there. We invited them. KST has the ultimate authority in development. The Land Commissioner will represent the claimants. Please, let's start that way. If you contact the land claimants, is that the way wrong? Let's contact the Land Commissioner. They say they have no qualms, they want development, and they will represent the claimants so that to see to it that they are not shortchanged. That's one. I want to talk about the disasters that are facing the municipalities year in, year out. I once said to one MEC, you guys, you are supporting the foreign hardware owners. And then he said, why? Whenever there's a disaster, you say you want the lowest price without specific standards. Unfortunately, the contractor, don't blame the contractors, because if he is not quoting the lowest price, they have to go to those chaps who are supplying substandard material. If you can see the roof iron, that you can tear it apart. It stands to reason. The following year, there will be a disaster again. As long as the government doesn't say we want specific standards, and then you talk about the lowest code out of the, the material should be SABS or something like that. But those guys, they just sell cheap things. And as long as the government supports the lowest price, unfortunately, it will be a disaster and a disaster and a disaster. And unfortunately, you will be feeding those guys. They are making money out of that. They know next year there will be a disaster. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Archie.
Thank you, Craig. Morning facilitators and colleagues. And I'm not going to respond to the comments, but I have noticed something that needs the forum to look at, to the vision of the institution. Can you light it? It might be an omission, or it might be something that needs to be reconsidered. In fact, while they are checking that, yes, that is the vision that we are talking about. A developmental people-centered municipality spearheading radical economic transformation is where I am. Important as it is, meaningful as it is, but there is something I can see missing, which should have been read as follows: radical socio-economic transformation. The reason I'm adding socio there is because if you go to the Constitution, we talk of social and economic development. If you go to the statements of the ruling party, you talk of socio-economic transformation. I'm sure this vision was taken from the national vision of the ruling party of the radical socio-economic transformation. But I think there is a missing point of socio, because the municipality cannot only visioning economic transformation only. We have to visioning socio-economic transformation. That is where I'm saying there is a missing link which can mislead our vision if we don't rectify it, or we don't review, or maybe it was omitted. That is where I'm drawing the attention of the forum there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The presentation by the MM was very, very comprehensive. We may not be able to touch on everything. So what I want you to do is, if there's something specific that we can take to the commission that needs a resolution, a concrete resolution, take it there. This is perhaps a case in point. You know, the issue around socio-economic transformation, or radical socio-economic transformation, radical economic transformation. What is the understanding there? What is the message we're trying to send? But it may not necessarily need to, not taking anything away, to be fully discussed at this level. You with me? Because I want to be very economical with time, socio-economically radical with my time. Over to you, sir.
Nkosi kakhulu Sihlalo. Ndizawuthi nqanga nentsiba zayo ndizothetha nomuntu wonke ngowezikhundla zabo. Chair, I would like to flag a few things that were raised by the MM in his presentation, that I think the strategic planning, as we go to commissions, we must be able to answer, and so that we are able to speak to the people that we are leading. Firstly, we are saying we come here to plan. Out of all 100% of people of KST, 76% of those people are living below poverty lines. So we must be able to address that question. How are we going to change the situation? At least when we come next year with the next strategic planning, we're able to say from 76%, maybe we're at 70 or 72. That's the first thing that I want to highlight as we are going to commission. We have a dream of becoming a metro. Well, Pupasnana Lobai Metro, economically, we are saying we can grow, we can create a lot of opportunities in agriculture. But currently, a contribution rate is just 1%, our contribution. We are saying we're a municipality on a potential, imali spendwa apa, that is about 33 billion rand. Of which that money from where I'm seated is more than enough to create amathuba emisebenzi aneleyo that can reduce that 42%. It only depends to the willingness and laws that we pass as the council to protect our local business people, so that everything that must be emayithengiswe kwezivenkile must be produced local. Iphumele ngaphandle xa ingekho. Meaning, policies that we must pass must be able to protect local business people. Also, training to these people so that they produce something of quality that is going to be easy to compete with the market. But also, because amaxesha amaninzi abantu bakuthi baya basethelwe izitandard eziphezulu ezaziwayo deliberately that abazofika kuzo. They're not going to be able to reach. As the municipality, we have a responsibility to protect our people. One, we have a responsibility to train our people, to make sure that our people meet that standard. So that we force everybody who's doing business here to say you are going to buy things that are produced here. I think by doing so, we can address the issue of 76% people who are living below poverty lines. We can address 42% of unemployment in our area. The third part, Chair, that I think we need to as the straight plan, we taking from the MM's presentation, is the issue of skills revolution. If we have a university here, does the university contribute enough in terms of producing skills that are relevant to the economy, or to the areas economy? Is it contributing? Are the TVET colleges that are here contributing enough in addressing issues of economy? Okanye we are producing abantu abazi public relations officer about 25,000 each and every year who are holding degrees and diplomas and abangenandawo abazoqeshwa kuyo. This strategic planning must respond to those issues, that if ever we have a university, we have TVET colleges, even at high school level, how many agricultural high schools do we have? How many technical high schools do we have that will be able to produce the skills that we are necessarily need by the economy currently? I think that's what I wanted to raise, so that the strategic planning is able to answer these questions when we get to that time of resolutions. We must be able to say we are at 76% now of people who are living below poverty lines. Then by next year, we must get a report and say we have moved from here to this point. Those are things, Chair, that I wanted to raise. Thank you very much.
Angos, thank you very much, sir. I think just hopping, I've noted you, sir, hopping on this issue. In the commissions, I think there are certain central themes that are coming through already. They're beginning to find expression. There is a lot that needs to be done. There is a lot that needs to be done. And in the commissions, when you identify the resolution, prioritize them. Prioritize them. I tell you why it's important to do that. The CFO is going to look at them, and he may not necessarily feel the need that one is more important than the other. And so when we prioritize them, it gives that financial impetus also into saying these are the more critical ones that need attention, because there's not going to be a sufficient time perhaps in 1 year to be able to deliver on everything. This issue on skills is a critical one. I'll tell you why. The central theme that's already coming through is that we have a challenge, an unemployment challenge, and we didn't even go into the details of youth. We have a challenge around people in the below poverty lines. And if we had dealt with those two things, it changes the revenue structure of the municipality, and it takes us closer to the vision of being what kind of a metro? A metro where there is employment opportunities for everyone. A metro that is built around an agricultural economy, perhaps, and the value chains, I'm trying to remember, the horizontal and vertical value chains that are built within that particular thing. And along that comes the skills. So I'm saying then that we may not necessarily get into the nuts and bolts of that kind of discussion, but on a practical level, it needs to look at how we build those skills. What kind of skills must be built, and who's going to build it for us? And perhaps the university or the TVET colleges must, but how are we going to do that? Are we going to create incentives for them to do that? Are we going to instruct them? You know, what is the plan? But the plan, we may not have that opportunity to discuss the plan now, but the point is there, very much so. Omsagas? My Diabulela sister. Okay, there's another.
Thank you very much, facilitator. I'll only touch on two things. Others have been said. I'll touch one on unemployment. That MOT, we have an unemployment of 41.6%. And I think it's a cause for concern. The side because kwakuchiwo that we constitute more than 70% of population of KSD. Therefore, 41.6% unemployment, it's a concern. Then the funungena window 8, there are sector departments within KSD. What is it that they are doing in terms of creating employment opportunities for young people in KSD? Because we are not going to be able to create job opportunities for young people base KSD bong. Then into enfunungena kuyo ile question university up. There's a university in Ireland established back then, but before establishment university, there was an extensive research to say there's a crisis of food security in our area. Therefore, we need an agricultural school. Then the question of fourth industrial revolution, even back then, that is about kwadingeka an ICT department ezawuncedisa in terms of skills. Now, mhlawumbi iWalter Sisulu University ayivulelwane if it is not able to assist KSD and people of KSD in particular. What is it that it is doing for KSD in terms of research? KSD every now and then capacity buildings, vets, forte. What is it that also is doing for KSD in terms of internet capacity? If there's a memorandum of understanding between KSD and Walter Sisulu University, you can then have abantu from upper KSD, like your MMCs, with departments, as practical. Because I think the question that decolonization speaks about that we cannot continue talking of human resource yase Germany yet sinazo ezingxaki ezilapha nalapha kuthi. Seyichachazelo ke le agricultural department that we continue talking about it, but akho institution within KSD, including Walter Sisulu University enayo kwalo agricultural department. Enkosi.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, ma'am. Sorry, am I getting it right? I acknowledge you, ma'am. Oh, sorry, there's a hand at the back there and then yourself. Over to you, sir.
Ndiyabulisa mhlanga phambili. Umadikiza from business. Bendicinga mhlambi chair I would get something glaring around an aggressive crime combating program and plan. Kakhulukazi xa from business city, crime inhibits economic growth. Because we want to, even if this KSD grows to metro, it must be a business stroke investment destination. And you must make sure that that is done. There are programs in ensuring that that is achieved. One of the ways of combating crime would be to provision cameras, and that will assist other departments as nalo mandate like SAPS. Meetings that we usually have with the municipality and district, they always look at the contribution in the crime by foreigners. And we would have expected that municipality would then be explicit on making a survey as to who is here. So we thought we would see that featuring glaringly, especially upper with strat plan. Maybe certain bylaws that talk to that if there are gaps in them. The last point is a procurement that is biased to local people. Thereby, you will be plugging the leaks of money outflows so that mali yase OR Tambo, yase KSD stays here longer. So that is what concretely we would have liked to see as featuring kakhulukazi in the overview MM. Lastly, KSD is a critical economic driver